Long before the nation of Belgium existed, the land was a crossroads. People lived and traded here. The Romans arrived over 2,000 years ago. They brought with them their powerful armies and their organized way of life. They also brought their money. Roman coins, made of gold, silver, and bronze, began to circulate. These were not just pieces of metal, they were symbols of Roman power. Each coin carried the face of an emperor. This face told everyone who was in charge. The coins were used in markets from the coast to the deep forests, connecting the local tribes like the Belgi to a vast and powerful empire that stretched across the known world. The coins they used had names like the denarius, a silver coin, and the aureus, a gold one. For smaller everyday purchases, people used bronze coins like the sestertius or the as. These pieces of metal were incredibly important. They allowed a farmer to sell his grain and buy tools. They allowed a merchant to trade goods that had traveled hundreds of miles. The designs on these coins were remarkable. They showed not only emperors, but also gods, goddesses, and great buildings in Rome. For the people living in the Roman province of Gallia Belgica, these coins were a daily reminder of the empire they were now a part of. It was their first experience with a single unified currency. Archaeologists today find these ancient coins buried in the Belgian soil. They're like small metal time capsules. Each discovery tells a story. A hoard of coins buried in a field might mean someone was hiding their wealth during a time of unrest or invasion. A single coin found near an old road tells us about the trade routes that crisscrossed the land. These finds help us map out the Roman presence. We can see where they built their villas and where their soldiers were stationed. The spread of these coins shows just how deeply Roman culture influenced the region, setting the stage for the many changes that would come in the centuries that followed. And so, the story of Belgian coinage begins here. It begins not with the King of Belgium, but with a Roman emperor. The very idea of using standardized official money was a Roman one. It was a powerful tool for building an economy and a state. The metals were durable, the weights were consistent, and the authority was clear. This system replaced older ways of trading, like bartering goods. The legacy of these Roman coins is profound. They introduced a concept of currency that would survive the fall of the empire itself, echoing through the ages into the coinage of medieval and modern Belgium. After the Roman Empire faded, the land we now call Belgium entered the Middle Ages. The single unified currency of the Romans disappeared. In its place, many different rulers began to make their own coins. Local lords, counts, and dukes all wanted to show their power. Minting coins was a way to do that. This meant that the region was a patchwork of different currencies. A coin from the county of Flanders might not be accepted in the Duchy of Brabant. This made trade complicated. Each coin had a different weight, a different purity of silver, and a different design, often showing the ruler's own coat of arms. A significant change came in the year 1266. The French king introduced a new high-quality silver coin called the gros tournois. Because of its reliable silver content, it became very popular. It was trusted far and wide. Rulers in the Low Countries, including those in Flanders and Brabant, began to copy it. They made their own versions, known as gros. This was an important step. It was the beginning of a move back towards a more standardized currency. Traders and merchants preferred these reliable coins, which made business easier and helped the economy of the great medieval cities like Bruges and Ghent to grow and prosper. The next great change came with the rise of the Dukes of Burgundy in the 15th century. These powerful rulers united many of the separate territories of the Low Countries under their control. They wanted to create a strong, unified state. To do this, they needed a unified currency. They started a series of coin reforms. They introduced new gold coins like the Cavalier d'Or, which showed the Duke on horseback. They also made new silver coins. The goal was to have the same money used across all their lands, from Holland in the north to Burgundy in the south. This made the region a powerful economic force in Europe. This period of Burgundian rule was crucial. It laid the foundations for a shared identity and a shared economy. The coins were a very visible symbol of this new unity. When people used a Burgundian coin, they were participating in this larger state. The designs were standardized, often featuring the Burgundian coat of arms and the cross of St. Andrew. This move away from the confusion of many local coins towards a single, strong currency was a vital development. It was a long journey from the fragmented coinage of the early Middle Ages, and it set a precedent for the unified national currencies that would emerge centuries later. Centuries passed, and the lands of Belgium were ruled by different foreign powers, first Spain, then Austria. By the late 18th century, many people were unhappy with Austrian rule. In 1789, a rebellion known as the Brabant Revolution broke out. The revolutionaries successfully drove out the Austrians. In January 1790, they declared a new independent country, the United Belgian States. It was a republic inspired by the American Revolution. This new country, though it would not last long, needed its own symbols of independence. And one of the most important symbols for any new nation is its own money. The United Belgian States quickly began to mint its own coins. These were designed to be completely different from the Austrian coins they replaced. The new coins proudly displayed symbols of the revolution. A key design was the Belgian lion, a historic symbol of the region's strength and courage. The lion was often shown with a sword and a shield. On the shield was the word libertas, the Latin word for freedom. This was a powerful message. Every time someone held one of these coins, they were holding a piece of their newfound liberty. The coins were a declaration of their break from foreign domination. The coins were minted in both silver and copper. The main silver coin was called the lion d'argent, or silver lion. There was also a gold coin, the lion d'or, or gold lion. For smaller transactions, they made copper coins called liards. The inscriptions on the coins were in Latin. One common phrase was Domini est regnum, which means the kingdom is the Lord's. Another was in uno caelus, meaning salvation in unity, a call for the different provinces to stick together. These phrases reflected the ideals and the hopes of the new republic as it tried to establish itself on the European stage. However, the independence of the United Belgian States was very brief. The new country was fragile. There were disagreements between its leaders, and the great powers of Europe did not support it. By the end of 1790, the Austrians had returned and restored their control. The revolutionary coins stopped being made. Although this period of independence lasted for less than a year, it was incredibly significant. It was the first time the Belgian provinces had united to form their own independent state. The coins they created are now rare and prized by collectors. They are a metallic memory of a brave but short-lived dream of freedom. After the fall of Napoleon, Belgium was merged with the Netherlands, but this union did not last. In 1830, another revolution took place, and this time independence was permanent. The modern nation of Belgium was born. One of the first tasks for the new kingdom was to create its own national currency. In 1832, the Belgian franc was established. It was based on the French franc system. This was a deliberate choice. It connected Belgium's economy to its powerful neighbor. The new currency needed new coins, and these would carry the portrait of Belgium's very first king, Leopold I. The first Belgian coins were made of copper, silver, and gold, following the French model. For everyday use, there were small copper coins of 1, 2, 5, and 10 centimes. The designs were simple, featuring the Belgian lion and the king's monogram, a stylish letter L. For larger amounts, there were silver coins. These included the quarter, half, 1, 2, and 5 franc coins. The most important of these, the 5 franc coin, was a large, heavy piece of silver. It proudly displayed a portrait of King Leopold I on one side and the Belgian coat of arms on the other. This was a powerful statement of the new nation's sovereignty. Gold coins were also produced for high-value transactions and international trade. There were 20 and 40 franc gold coins. Like the silver coins, they featured the king's portrait. The inscriptions on all these coins were in French, which was the official language of the government at the time. Phrases like Leopold I, Roi des Belges, meaning Leopold I, King of the Belgians, were written around the king's image. The reverse side often showed the coin's value and the year it was made, surrounded by a simple wreath of oak leaves. These first coins were elegant and classic in their design. The creation of the Belgian franc and its associated coinage was a fundamental step in building the new nation. A national currency helps to unify a country. It simplifies trade within its borders and builds a shared economic identity. Everyone from a farmer in Flanders to a factory worker in Wallonia used the same francs and centimes. The coins passing from hand to hand were a constant, tangible reminder of their new, shared Belgian identity. They were not just tools for commerce, they were symbols of the independence and unity that had been so recently won. As Belgium's economy grew in the 19th century, international trade became more and more important. However, having different national currencies made this trade complicated. To solve this problem, Belgium took a leading role in forming a new currency alliance. In 1865, Belgium, France, Italy, and Switzerland joined together to create the Latin Monetary Union. The agreement was simple but revolutionary. Each country agreed that its gold and silver coins would have the same weight and purity. This meant that a Belgian 5-franc coin was identical in value to a French 5-franc coin or an Italian 5-lira coin. They were interchangeable. This union was a great success for many years. It made travel and trade across Europe much easier. A Belgian merchant could travel to Italy and use his Belgian francs as if they were local money. The coins of the member nations, though they had their own national designs, all followed the same strict standards. A 20-franc gold coin from Belgium had the exact same amount of gold as a 20-franc gold coin from France. This created a large, stable currency zone, almost like a forerunner to the euro. The union was so successful that many other countries later joined or adopted its standards. During this same period, Belgium was also a pioneer in using new materials for its coins. Minting coins from precious metals like silver was expensive, especially for small denominations. In 1860, Belgium became one of the first countries in the world to introduce a coin made from a new alloy cupronical. This mixture of copper and nickel was hard-wearing, looked a bit like silver, and was much cheaper to produce. The first cupronical coins were the 20 centimes pieces. This innovation was a great success. The material proved so durable and cost-effective that it would eventually be adopted by countries all over the globe for their coinage. Another interesting innovation from this era was the introduction of coins with holes in the middle. Starting in 1901, the 5, 10, and 25 centimes coins were minted with a central hole. There were several practical reasons for this. It saved metal, making the coins cheaper to produce. It also made them easy to distinguish by touch from other coins of a similar size, which was helpful for everyone, especially visually impaired people. These holed coins, made of cupronical, became a familiar part of daily life in Belgium for decades. They show a country that was not just following traditions, but was actively looking for practical modern solutions for its currency. The outbreak of the First World War in 1914 brought devastation to Belgium. The country was invaded and occupied by Germany. The occupation had a severe impact on every aspect of life, including the nation's money. Precious metals like gold, silver, and even copper and nickel were desperately needed for the war effort. The German occupying forces ordered that these coins be handed over. They were melted down to make weapons and ammunition. As a result, the familiar Belgian coins quickly vanished from circulation. People hoarded any they could find, and a severe shortage of small change developed. To deal with this shortage, new types of money had to be created. The German occupation authorities began to issue coins made from cheaper, non-strategic metals. Zinc became the metal of choice. New 5, 10, 25, and 50 centime coins were minted in zinc. These coins were dull and gray. They felt light and cheap compared to the bronze and cupronical coins they replaced. They were purely functional. The designs were simple, often featuring just the value and a small emblem. These zinc coins are a stark reminder of the hardship and scarcity of the war years. They are coins born of necessity, not of national pride. After the war ended in 1918, Belgium began the slow process of recovery. The country had been ravaged, but its spirit was not broken. One of the symbolic steps of this recovery was to restore the national coinage. The ugly zinc coins of the occupation were withdrawn. New coins were needed, but the economy was weak. It was not immediately possible to return to the pre-war silver and gold standards. the value of the Belgian franc had fallen dramatically. So, in the 1920s, new coins were introduced, but they reflected the new economic reality. The first post-war coins were made of cupro-nickel and nickel brass. In the 1930s, as the economy stabilized, new designs appeared that celebrated Belgian identity. One famous series showed a portrait of Mercury, the Roman god of trade and commerce, on the 5 and 10 franc coins. This symbolized the hope for economic prosperity. Another very popular design used on coins from 50 centimes up to 20 francs featured the Belgian lion. This was a powerful, modern and stylized version of the lion, roaring defiantly. These coins were bilingual for the first time, with inscriptions in both French, Belgique, and Dutch, Belgie. This recognized the two main languages of the country and was an important symbol of national unity during the interwar years. In 1940, history repeated itself in the most terrible way. Belgium was once again invaded and occupied by Germany, this time under the Nazis. And just as in the First World War, the country's coinage was immediately affected. The Nazi regime needed raw materials for its vast war machine. All coins containing copper and nickel were systematically withdrawn from circulation. The Belgian people were forced to hand them over. These metals were then melted down to support the German war effort. Once again, the familiar coins that people used every day disappeared, and a substitute had to be found for the occupied nation. As before, the replacement metal was zinc. The occupying authorities issued a new series of zinc coins in denominations of 5, 10, and 25 centimes, as well as 1 and 5 francs. These coins were stark and utilitarian. They bore simple designs, often just the value and the year, surrounded by a wreath of leaves. They deliberately avoided any symbols of the Belgian monarchy or national identity. They were coins of a conquered land. For the people of Belgium, using this dull, grey money every day was a constant and grim reminder of the occupation and the loss of their freedom. They were the currency of oppression. While Belgium was occupied, its government in exile, based in London, was planning for the future. They knew that when the country was liberated, it would need a new supply of money immediately. They arranged for new coins to be minted in the United States at the Philadelphia Mint. In 1944, as Allied forces landed in Normandy and began the liberation of Europe, these coins were ready. A special 2 franc coin was produced. It was made of steel and coated with zinc, a unique composition. The coin featured the Belgian lion, a symbol of resistance and hope, and the date of liberation, 1944. When the Allies liberated Belgium in September 1944, they brought these new coins with them. This was a crucial part of restoring order and a functioning economy. The sight of these American-made coins bearing the proud Belgian lion was a powerful symbol that the dark years of occupation were finally over. It was a tangible sign of freedom returned. After the war, the process of monetary renewal continued. The zinc occupation coins were removed and Belgium began to mint its own new coins again. This included a series of silver coins issued to restore confidence in the currency after the trauma and turmoil of the war. In the years following the Second World War, Belgium worked to rebuild its economy and its currency. For a brief period, silver coins were brought back into circulation. This was done to restore public confidence in the franc, which had been undermined by years of occupation and zinc money. However, the price of silver on the world market was rising. It soon became too expensive to use for minting coins. By the mid-1950s, it was no longer practical, and the production of silver circulation coins in Belgium came to a final end. From then on, all regular coins would be made from more affordable base metals, like cupro-nickel and bronze. King Baudouin reigned for over 40 years, from 1951 to 1993. His long reign saw many changes in Belgian coinage. His portrait, aging gracefully over the decades, appeared on many of the coins. The designs of this era were often modern and functional. A new series of coins was introduced in the late 1960s. These featured a profile of the king on one side and simple, clear designs on the reverse. For example, The 1 franc coin famously depicted the value surrounded by leaves and the text Belgi or Belgique. These coins were familiar to generations of Belgians and formed the backbone of the currency for decades. When King Baudouin passed away in 1993, his brother Albert II became king. This change of monarch required a new series of coins. The portrait on the franc coins was updated to show the image of King Albert II. The designs on the reverse, however, largely remained the same as those from the Baudouin era. This provided a sense of continuity. The metals also stayed the same, with bronze for the 50 centimes coin and cupronickel for the 1, 5 and 20 franc coins. A new higher value 50 franc coin made of a nickel brass alloy was also in circulation, featuring the king's profile. These coins of the late 20th century were the last generation of the Belgian franc. They were the money that people used every day for their shopping, their bus fares, and their savings. They represented a long period of peace and prosperity in Belgium. The consistent designs and the familiar portraits of the kings provided a sense of stability. But a monumental change was on the horizon. Belgium, as a founding member of the European Union, was preparing to give up its historic franc and adopt a brand new shared European currency. The era of the national coinage was drawing to a close. On January 1st, 2002, a historic change took place. Belgium, along with 11 other European nations, officially switched to the euro. The Belgian franc, which had been the nation's currency for 170 years, was replaced. Euro coins and banknotes were introduced, and for a short period, both currencies were used side by side. It was a huge logistical operation. Banks, shops, and citizens had to adapt to the new money. Euro coins have a common European side, showing a map of Europe. But each country can design its own national side. This allows nations to keep a piece of their identity on the new shared currency. For its first series of euro coins, Belgium chose a single unifying design for all 8 denominations, from the 1 cent to the 2 euro coin. The design featured the portrait of the reigning monarch at the time, King Albert II. His profile was shown along with his royal monogram, a crowned letter A. Surrounding the image were the 12 stars of the European Union, a symbol of unity. This was a classic and dignified design. It continued the long tradition of showing the head of state on the nation's coins. It connected the new European currency with the long history of the Belgian monarchy. The design of Belgian euro coins has been updated twice. The first change came in 2008. European Union rules required that the country's name or abbreviation be shown on the coin. So, the design was slightly modified to include the letters B for Belgium. The king's portrait was also updated. The second change came in 2014, after King Albert II abdicated and his son Philippe became king. A new series of coins was issued, featuring the portrait of King Philippe. This change ensured that the coins continued to reflect the current head of state, maintaining a tradition stretching back to 1832. Beyond the regular coins, Belgium has also issued many special commemorative 2 euro coins. These coins celebrate important events, people, and cultural achievements. One of the most popular and internationally famous series celebrated the adventures of Tintin, the beloved comic book character created by the Belgian artist Herge. These special coins are legal tender across the entire Eurozone, but they are also highly sought after by collectors. They are a wonderful example of how coins can be used not just for commerce, but also to celebrate a nation's unique culture and share it with the world, continuing the story of Belgian coinage in a new and creative way.